Hello boys and girls. So for today's Bible lesson we're going to be looking at lesson 143. So after we've heard our story, maybe you could go to your learning pack and you could find your worksheet and have a wee go at filling that in. And today's Bible lesson is from Matthew chapter 7 and it's all about judgment. Jesus was telling the people about judgment, and that's a big word. And judgment means telling people what they've done wrong and what their punishment for it should be. Jesus was particularly talking to the religious leaders, and he said something to them that sounds strange. He said, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not see the log that is in your eye?" And what Jesus really meant by that was, why do you go around pointing out all the sin and badness in other people's lives when you yourselves are sinning much more? You see, the religious leaders were very important people, and they were proud of that, and they thought they were better than everyone else, and they made sure everyone knew. They judged people for their sin. They pointed out all the other wrong things that people did, and the people would have looked at the religious leaders and thought, whoa, look at them. They are such good followers of God. You never see them doing anything wrong. But although that's how it may have looked on the outside, Jesus knew that on the inside, their hearts were really sinful. And boys and girls, it doesn't matter how good we seem on the outside to others. We all have sinful hearts on the inside. We all disobey God a lot. And we all need Jesus to forgive us for our sin and to save us from it. And Jesus told a story to help the people understand this. There was a man who built a house, and he decided to build his house on rock, with strong, solid foundations in the rock that couldn't be shaken. It wasn't easy, it was hard work, but it was a really strong house. And there was another man who also decided to build a house, but he decided to build his house on sand. That looked much easier than digging foundations in the hard rock, and it looked nicer as well. But then a big storm came. There was howling wind and floods from the rain, and the house that was built on the rock stood firm, but the house that was built on the sand fell down. It might have looked nice in the beginning, but in the end that didn't matter at all, because it was in total ruins. Boys and girls, the storm is a bit like God's judgment. You see, God has to judge sin. He has to punish us for breaking his law. But the great news for us is that Jesus has already been punished for our sin instead of us. He died on the cross so that we didn't have to be punished, because he loves us so much. The man who built his house on the rock is like those people who put their trust in Jesus to forgive them for their sin and save them from it. When God's judgment comes, they will be safe. But the man who built his house on the sand is like those people who don't trust in Jesus and who try to do things their own way. When God's judgment comes, they will be destroyed because they didn't put their trust in Jesus, the strong foundation. Boys and girls, it's our prayer in church that you will build your lives on the strong foundation of Jesus, that you will ask him to forgive you for your sin, and that you'll follow him as your king, and that he will keep you safe from God's judgment. It won't always be easy, but it'll be worth it, because Jesus will be your strong foundation. Even when trouble comes in your life, Jesus will be your solid rock, and that's our prayer in church. So let's finish by praying now. Dear God, thank you that you sent your son Jesus to take the punishment for our sin. Thank you that he is the solid rock upon which we can build our lives, and that we can trust in him to help us whenever trouble comes, whenever the storms come in our life. We can rely on Jesus, and he will keep us safe from the judgment. He's already taken the punishment that we deserve. Lord God, I just pray that all the boys and girls who are listening will put their trust in Jesus Christ and will have him as their strong foundation. And I ask it in your name. Amen.